Hello and welcome back to the Blizzard Arena. We are in the middle of day 2 group stages for the HGC Finals here 2018. It's been really exciting. Last matchup was pretty interesting. Dignitas with that core trade up against the one, but Dig was able to pull off a 2-0 victory for them. Another 3 points go on the board to the Dignitas team from Europe. Up next, we got a matchup here. Leftovers, 3rd seed out of Europe against Tempest, the 2nd seed from Korea. Leftovers in need of some points, but the big question at hand is, are they going to be able to take those off of the Korean team? I'm going to toss you over to Trixler to see if we can find out.
Thank you, Kevin. That is right. I will be hosting this segment here. We don't have Gillyweed, and I don't have on a flower dress, although I think I could pull it off. But I do have a beautiful ensemble of boys here on the left. Skimmy, all the way from ANZ. Skimmy, how you doing, buddy?
Doing very well, man. Pleased to be on the desk once again with some boys with J-How, just so I can look like his younger cousin.
I mean, perfect introduction. How you doing, J-How?
I'm a little worried. You said ANZ and not ANZ, so clearly showing respect towards that.
It's a culture thing. Yeah. It's true respect.
I mean, you could go full Tetcher and go ZJZ when you announce a ZJZ.
Like
I love it, man. We're getting all types of culture up here.
We let Tetcher do his own thing. Well, let's go ahead and check out the standings here, though, as we continue to go throughout this entire week. Remember, we have 4 days of action, and the numbers are starting to pile up. Group A right now looking pretty litty-bitty for Miracle right now with 9 points so far with a 6-0, but Gen G suffering a loss to Team Liquid. 1 point was scored by them, and Team Liquid sitting in 3rd spot right now, Skimmy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big one for me. We were looking at that backstage thinking, you know, Gen G up against Miracle, both Korean seeds, looking to do really, really well and possibly force that tiebreaker for that 1st seed. With that upset, I mean, that's a big one for Team Liquid especially. You know, they got up to a bit of a rough start on day number 1. They come in day number 2, bounce back, and take arguably the hardest game to heart.
Well, we're still here in Group B, and J-How, Leftovers are struggling right now. Only 1 point to their name. Let's go ahead and check out the schedule here as we get ready for them to face off against Tempest. And they're in a dire position. They need to get some victories. Can they pull it off against Tempest?
I really believe that they can. They're still an incredibly talented team. You know, whatever the mindset is, you think of this team, and you got to remember, for a lot of these people, Western Clash was one of their first showings for a lot of these people at LAN. Now they're on the big stage on an international level, not just a Western level, and they haven't been that far off in their games. One minor misplay, one overcommitment. It's not like they're that far off. They're still so good, so strong. I really think that this team is close, and when people are asking me leading up to BlizzCon and we see the groups and I see that they're in a group with these strong Korean teams, and I say, you know, Leftovers playstyle is very Korean-esque. They're not as refined, they're not as polished, because not everybody in Europe plays that style. But I think they can go toe-to-toe in their series today. I really, truly believe that.
Well, we'll be witnessing that pretty darn soon. But on the other side of the coin, you got Tempest right now, who actually came in and surprised me. They mentioned in interviews that they feel like they have not been meeting expectations when they go to offline events, and that they have made sure to put the work in this time around. They have researched every single team, and they are prepared. Can a prepared Tempest beat a Leftovers right now that seems to be struggling?
I think it comes down to 2 different things, right? The preparation being one for Tempest. You look at that and you say, well, you know, they gave the one everything that they needed. They then obviously got the win as a result. But then you're also looking on the side of Leftovers and thinking, well, you know, this is a team that really look for, you know, no stress, having fun. There's a point in time when you're at a big venue like this, right, and you're starting to think, maybe we are a little bit stressed, maybe we aren't having as much fun. So I think it's, I don't want to look at it as such a matchup, but more so like, where's the mentality at both sides? Where's the respect levels? And, you know, how do they come into this matchup? Because it is only a best of 2 once again, so there's no time to adjust. It has to be right there from the get-go.
Well, let's go ahead and continue to focus on our teams here. Tempest is up first, and we'll see if Tempest is ready to take on Leftovers. Lockdown coming in here first. God, every time you think about that player, you think about his fall stat. Always coming in here in the past. Granted, we've had some rotation between these teammates, but the power level of these players is substantial, J-How.
It does feel that way. It used to be a matter of, is Sign going? Is Hyde supporting? But we've seen since some of the role changes that came in with Dami and Lockdown and Good, that has really started to become a thing for them, a very strong point, because there was so much as, is Sign on the proper heroes? Is he making the right plays? Is Hyde having to play out of his mind on support? But since these role changes came in and they've had some time to adjust, they've looked like a better team.
Yeah, some of the best teams that we have in this tournament, one of the things that really kind of stood out for me in the last couple of days when we were talking to them is we would say, hey, if you need to play this hero, can you make it happen? And the best team said, if if we need to rotate a couple of players around, we can flex and fill out the entire roster of Heroes of the Storm, and Tempest is among those teams.
And I think that's a really interesting point you bring up, because when we typically speak about flex, you go, well, what does that actually encompass, right? Is that you can play one role, or is it that you can then be like, I'm a melee assassin, I'm a ranged assassin? Does that mean you play specialist? Does that mean you play globals, right? So the role truly of a flex now is branched out so much to the state where it's like, I play this or he plays that. As a unit, we spread around all 3 different members.
Well, just coming off of a loss against HHE, which was a surprise to I think a lot of us here. Leftovers gearing up to take on Tempest. They've had their warm-up matches earlier on. What is the first thing this team needs to do before they even prepare for taking this match?
DAB. I mean, there was a clear focus on Sky Temple for Heroes Hearth not to fight. But in that first game, we saw the ban, or the pickup of Li Ming by Heroes Hearth pre-second ban, and then the ban on Tracer. 2 of his best heroes. Then you look down the line and you think Phoenix, but Phoenix isn't necessarily a BOE-style hero. I think they know what they're getting from Mopsio, who is trying to do a lot. Linked has done his job on the support. Blakidney has really surprised me with his stellar play, but I think they need to get DAB into the mix, maybe prioritize his picks.
One thing that I also think that Leftovers needs to consider is they have been showing this type of playstyle of fighting and rubber banding around in a fight, coming back and trying to take you down and make you burn cooldowns. And teams are starting to catch on to that. HHE in particular showcasing game number 2 on Sky Temple. If you play around the Leftovers and what they're trying to pull off, which is effectively a tank-centric composition where they wait for their tank to make a play, you can beat them down slowly. So Leftovers need to consider that moving into the draft, because Tempest, as mentioned, has put their research in and could play that style.
I mean, they absolutely can, and I feel like if you're looking at an aggression standpoint, you're looking at actually the matchups that we've seen so far, it definitely has to be in favor of Leftovers, given the fact they've had 1 extra series, so they should be a little bit more warmed up, both of versus the 1, but then you look at Leftovers taking on Dignitas and Heroes Hearth, a much harder showing, so if anything, if there's any growing pains or any lessons to be learned, might as well get them out of the way right now and take that into a series when it really starts to matter, because if you're looking at the standings, them sitting there at 1 point does not look very pretty.
Well, it is time to start this series here. Let's go ahead and start looking at these battlegrounds to figure out exactly where our teams will be wanting to go. For Leftovers in particular, maps that are huge for them, Tomb of the Spider Queen, moving into Volskaya Foundry, these are maps they usually want to move into. In fact, we're actually going to be seeing it here for game number 1 as we'll be moving into Tomb, J-Hal.
Tomb, I think, fits the Leftovers playstyle. They didn't want to get danced around on Sky Temple. Fortunate for them, they're also staring across the battleground as a team that's also trying to bring it to you. You don't have that macro-heavy style play where they're trying to avoid a team fight. That's not the way Korea does it. So this matchup for them favors them if they're going to pick up wins. They need at least 1 here. It feels like they need 1 here. They still have more matchups to go, but this, I think, is very crucial to just pick up 1 map win. If they 2-0, that's a great standpoint for them. They need at least 1 victory, and Tomb is a great spot.
This is a battleground where we've seen them pick up steam in the past, usually moving into Diablo, Deckard Cain. One of the major mixes that we haven't got from them is actually that Diablo and Deckard Cain in that 1-2, been having a little bit more priority on the Assassin. I would love to see that visit back to the main warriors. Give the Leftovers the tools to win, and one of those ways of doing that is giving Mopsio the ability to pick what he wants and get those engagements. So here we go, a Nubarak and a Medivh ban coming in.
A Nubarak confuses me a little.
Yeah, especially against Leftovers.
That's not the Leftovers traditional style, but they're going to say a Nubarak, Garrosh, and now the Diablo. The heavy hitters, the heavy engagement tanks are gone. Muradin's still kind of there. I mean, there's not a whole lot beyond this. The only thing I can think of, this is confusing.
We've been noticing this a lot, though, especially for today, where teams are starting to really choke out those tanks and really try and take away like the trifecta, the top 3 of what those are. We're sort of like leaning now into the Muradins, into your Stitches, ETCs, potentially even Johannes, for instances. So, I mean, if we are thinking to line up Tracer, what was Tracer usually good at on a map like this? Obviously, it was the assassination from those lanes, but you always needed some form of wave clear. Once upon a time, it was Tassadar. Possibly you're going to go for the Johanna instead.
But if you do take away all these tanks and Leftovers matches you suddenly have one of their strongest picks available. This is when they first started netting wins. My Ev coming in for Blakidney. I also think that we're going to be seeing a Muradin later on here for the Leftovers, which could play well in the Tempest, who has shown an affinity, well, a majority of the Eastern teams, for a Malthael. Malthael does such a good job at burning down that Muradin and putting a lot of pressure on that front line, but Leftovers so far will be able to bring the fight straight to Tempest.
Leftovers will be pretty happy with this one because, as you mentioned, yeah, Maev is a crucial hero for them. In the previous series up against Heroes Hearth, it was banned without a complete doubt. Abathur's always been a big one as well. Not the best map for him, but it's good to see that they get a comfort pick of some sorts. Coming into this, though, they ban away that Johannes is still, you know, we're going full down that route of banning away as many of these wave clear, but even just, yeah, tanks in general.
Well, The thing is that Johanna, I mean, Maiev can be the initiator. Johanna can easy follow up with the condemn. Murden is the last kind of normal warrior that we get. We did see Mopsio on ETC earlier on Battlefield of Eternity, so that's not out of the question. It's just 4 warriors band is not a traditional pick ban phase that we have in Heroes right now.
And I mean, the Johanna ban makes sense for a few different reasons. Obviously, the blind can disrupt the tether from Maiev. Also, you've then got the ability to then try and sync it up with the Lunar Flare. They do get the combination. That's what we mentioned. If Johanna's taken off the board, you can get the Tracer and run of the old school combination of that Tassadar. Probably for that solo lane, just for the soak, and for the wave clear.
I think it's important to note, though, is that Maev's wave clear is pretty decent. But Tassadar's is pretty decent as well. Tracer's looking for kills, normally needs that Tassadar to roam with, but you also want to roam with Maiev at some point of this game. Yrel still does very good in the wave clear department. They need some wave clear of their own. They're going to get it by way of Phoenix, and ETC will be picked up. Murden is available if Mopsio wants to go down that route, but the Tass Tracer, the one thing about Phoenix is that Phoenix can warp out of a pulse bomb, so he's not as threatening or not as threatened by some of this.
Is this a Zul main tank?
It very possibly could be, actually, to make up for that wave clear.
Because ETC was my first choice. Murden's fine, but he doesn't have that wave clear you're looking for in the battleground as you were mentioning earlier. It's going to be the Zul main tank coming out for leftovers.
There's the wave clear.
Yeah.
I mean, this allows you for a gank squad now.
They need the wave clear.
Yeah, before it's Tassadar can kind of clear early. It doesn't really clear until he starts to finish that Psystorm quest. But now it's like we can fast rotate. We can out-rotate our opponent, which enables us to get kills. You can even rotate down to that bottom lane to look for ganks as well. And Zul, lockdown, trigger, let's go.
And that's one of the big things about a Zul composition, right? It's all around that Bone Prism. You're trying to get a kill, especially with those talents unlocked in the later stages post-10 to try and get the armor reduction. Sure, if he warps out the Phoenix, you just pulse bomb him afterwards. That's going to do increased damage, not to mention that level 10 quantum spike. It could be pretty disgusting.
And don't forget, one of the weaknesses about Zul too is he has a really hard time phase shifting pushes. If he walks in, he's on that bone armor available, he gets picked off. What do you have to fix that?
Hang on a minute,
Tassadar with the Oracle to pop in and say, you know what, we can get these advantages. So now you have the advantage of clearing out the minion waves, making sure you have vision in that regard. And if you don't see 3 to 4 people on the map, you have Oracle popped in by Tassadar, and you're good to go in that regard. Everything looking good here for leftovers to make this work, but at the same time, you're facing off against a Tempest who's ready to fight.
The ETC, I mean, you look at the interrupts for that. I mean, a stay a while and listen, maybe a Lornado. The Lornado on a much shorter cooldown, so if you need that, but if you use one of those cooldowns at all and ETC still has the mosh pit available, you better be spreading out and crossing your fingers because that will get ripped there with no interrupts.
Quick thoughts, Kimmy?
Is there a world in which we see containment disc here just to try and isolate a member? Because I mean, we've seen in the past, especially where they tried to run like double with like a cocoon or even like an isolation going into Haka, try and have 2 and try and make something work. I'm thinking it's not off the card of possibilities.
Very true. Well, enough from us. Let's go ahead and check out this composition. Leftovers taking on Tempest. Over to our casters.
Thank you very much, Trick, and I once again share the concerns of Jayhow here. That mosh pit could be such a huge deal here. You can count the interrupts on one hand here.
I think any power slide against Zul is going to be an issue because when you get that slide off, he's going to have to use his shield. He's going to run out, and in the early game before he has his auto attacks to heal, which is what kind of enables him as a main tank Zul, right? In the early game, that ETC is going to be a problem, so they're going to have to play passive. Phoenix has ways to escape not only the pulse bomb, but also the root from the Bone Prison, so I mean, I'm not fully sold on this Zul against what Tempest is running.
On the left-hand side, leftovers with DAB on Tracer, Potiboss on Tassadar, Linked, bringing out the Decade Cane, Mopsio on main tank Zul, and Blakitli has somehow been given the Maiev, but they are up against the terror that is Tempest. And playing for them, it is good. Bringing out that Phoenix lockdown on the Genji, dummy on the Yrel, Sign on the ETC, and Hyde has been given his Tyrande. This is a scary lineup for both these teams.
Certainly is. I mean, I'm a Zul main, as everyone knows. In fact, you had that post with the art with all the casters in there, their hero, and you actually asked me what's your hero. I remember before you made that art, I was like, Zul, of course. I didn't know at the time that's what you were asking me about, but I love Zul. I play him a lot. He's my most played hero, and I'm excited to see him see professional play again. I just do worry that wave clear is good. The rotational power and macro he gives you on this map is very powerful, but the potential for one team fights, especially over big objectives like a boss, for example, I'm a little bit concerned.
We're going to have a pause here, but I completely agree with you. ETC especially, He used to be the rotation interrupter on this map all the way back to when Asmodan was in the meta for the first time, where everyone was rotating between two lanes with Johanna, Tassadar, or Johanna Malfurion with that Moonburn build to stack up for Asmodan. The way you would deal with that a lot of times was Muradin or ETC to slow down Asmodan or try and punish him out of position and interrupt his Globe of Annihilations.
Exactly, and this is a map like Infernal Shrines when Zul was meta back in 2016 as a specialist, as a solo laner slash split pusher, because lanes weren't even fully defined back then. He was banned a lot, and his role has completely changed because he does serve as a frontliner. He serves as a tanker. You can go other builds with him, but not in this case where you don't have a traditional warrior in that position, because he has his, his Jailer's build, which can be quite powerful. You can do a lot of damage with Executioner, etc. But and those are, more what you do in solo queue. But when you're actually playing the main tank variation, you have to build into that sustain. And you're not tanky because you have a large health pool. You're tanky because you have a shield and you have this ability to not only slow attack speed around you, but then auto attack to heal. But those are only in very small windows, right? When you have those curse strikes available where you can heal. If Tempest disengages during that window, suddenly you can't heal. And during those moments, there's burst damage coming in. You've got Tyranda's stuns on top of ETC, the most classic stun combo in Korean heroes history. They call it Soranda because so is the word for cow, basically, and that's what they call ETC in Korea, plus Tyranda together. Oldest combo in the book. There's a lot of burst. Zul's not going to last very long in a lot of the team fights against this composition specifically. So let's see how this works out as we are now finally back into the game.
Indeed, and like you said, we will have to see how that works out. There is a saving grace for the Zul, and that is the Tassadar. A little bit of extra protection. You also have Decade, so you have double shield potential, along with Zul's own shields. There is a pretty reasonable amount of protection here, which is fantastic, as, once again, Zul, he is filling in the tank role, but any assistance is always welcome.
You're absolutely right about that, and that's one of the greatest combos you can ever have is Deckard plus Zul, and we have the Tassadar on top of that. You have that extra safety. But what it also means is there's a trade-off in that when you shield the Zul because he's getting in the front line and he misses his window to tank or before he gets his heals, then you're not shielding Tassadar. And when you're not shielding Tassadar, or excuse me, Tracer, DAB, so fantastic on this hero, he doesn't always need it, but if you're not able to give that extra protection, then the potential for Tracer is somewhat limited.
Very true. Tracer really does need that shield. This is not a Malfurion, it's a Decade Kayn. Malfurion, one of the more independent healers for a Tracer. Going to have another pause here. But in this case, the Decade Kayn, it's all about potion positioning, and a lot of those are once again going to go on to Zul. So they have to be careful here. Tassadar, though, he does actually have the option of adding in extra slows here, which is going to make Zul's job a little bit easier. He even has the potential to go forceful, but it's very unlikely to happen due to the fact Yrel can jump over it, Phoenix can teleport over it, and Genji can jump over it. The only people who are actually in danger are Tyrande and ETC.
There's a lot of potential you and I were joking about during the draft with a Warden's Cage into a Poison Nova. That
would be cool.
Insane damage. That paired with a Force Wall makes that second escape once the Warden's Cage does get knocked down by collision. You can further catch those heroes and start to grab them. You then drop the Bone Prison down. But I don't think that's necessarily what they're going to be looking for here.
Even if you do go for that, the Force Wall becomes, again, a little bit... It's still unlikely, but you could still even go Archon there, just due to the fact that the attacks splash, and you're keeping everyone very grouped up with Warden's Cage. And of course, the tether from the Maiev as well, so being able to get that extra damage assist. Tracer, who's probably going for... With their comp, probably Ricochet. They want the more sustained fights. They're not going to go for the Bullet Spray Burst.
Exactly, especially when you have this tank that has such a large amount of lockdown and AoE damage. That's where you really want the Ricochet. You're going to end up doing a ton of AoE damage in that fight. Which the Poison Nova, I think, is what we're going to see here very likely on this battleground in particular. And then you have this just massive bleed damage, and Tempest is going to have to disengage. The Skeletal Mages can serve as another way of locking down versus the Force Wall. It's actually, in a lot of ways, more effective, especially because your teammates can walk through it. So there's a lot to think about once we hit that 10. But I do like the idea of this draft, and I think this is one of those teams that you're fighting that you do kind of want to... not reinvent the wheel per se, but try something a little bit out of the box against Tempest.
Yeah. And we're going to have a little bit of time to think about that, ladies and gentlemen, as we are going to head to a quick break so we can get this issue sorted and get you right back into the game. So don't go anywhere. We will be back with Leftovers versus Tempest.
I'm Dennis Schneider, also known as HasoOps. I'm playing Flex for Team Liquid.
My name is Niels Gebhardt. My nickname is Nurok. I'm the support player for Team Liquid. Billy, we wanted to have a vocal main tank, a confident main tank, which he is. He's doing that very, very well.
I'm Alexander Miwanov. I play offline for Team Liquid, and my in-game nickname is Eternal. We're all very happy to be here because it was not easy to qualify, so we just want to do as good as possible.
I'm Arcana, and I play for Team Liquid. I'm able to play the game that I love and do it competitively. BlizzCon this year is like my last chance to prove like everything.
I said very early voluntarily, guys, I can play support. I can do the role swap, absolutely no problem, because I played support in the past in other games, and I felt very, very confident with it. I just wanted to embrace a new challenge, and I think it worked out quite well.
I played Warcraft 3 on a professional level when I was very young. I started with like, I don't know, 15 or 16. Basically my whole life I was playing Blizzard games. 14 years within the esports scene in the Blizzard. Like they call me the Blizzard game specialist. Trying to qualify for BlizzCon and Warcraft 3, we had very, very good European players, so there was just no spot for me. But I dropped out in qualifiers, and then I think I was much better in StarCraft than I was in Warcraft, but somehow kind of the same story. I just couldn't qualify for a BlizzCon.
Unfortunately, it wasn't this guy's day today.
Then switching to Heroes, I actually had the option every year.
I mean, it has been kind of a roller coaster ride.
Zero, a relatively low kill game there in the end.
We've put in a lot of work to get to each event, but I feel like every time we've kind of got relaxed and fallen short.
And with only 2 shots left on the core, Team Liquid will fall victim to the North American team.
I just think it's a preparation thing.
And we lost in the semi-final.
Team Liquid is going to the loser bracket.
And then it happened 2 more times in like very nerve-wracking moments actually.
In 2016, we should have qualified back then, but we threw, and it kind of was laying still on my shoulders, the skills which I had, that we didn't qualify back then.
It was a very heartbreaking loss, right? Because if someone remembers the game, we actually should have won. We were in a very good position, and we made a absolutely terrible decision in the game. And it was not recoverable. Because Fnatic went to our core and just won the game, and they won the series in that moment. And I mean, obviously, being so close again, not making it is just like heartbreaking. I think it hurts you even more than if you fail like earlier on the way, because then you weren't that close. It didn't destroy the team, but it gave us a very big hit actually.
I for sure didn't like it, and we will not make that happen again at BlizzCon.
Pin. Yeah, I will show you how it's done. The Hanzo main. Simple geometry. So actually, what do I want to do?
The toughest point for a team is obviously not when you are winning everything. The toughest point, or the point where you have to prove yourself as a team, is when you are losing.
Maybe the walk is right.
We didn't regret it that much. It might sound a bit weird, but we took the positive of it. We basically learned more on this event by going into last place, so it might have been a good thing for us.
Goes for the core, and Liquid is about to qualify for the biggest event of the year.
Team Liquid, with their 3rd win over Method, will secure the 2nd slot to BlizzCon.
We won 3-0, was the last play day of this phase, and yeah, therefore we qualified directly for BlizzCon.
In the end, we managed to achieve it. We managed to beat Method quite convincingly.
I've practiced like more than I've ever practiced, and my last 3 performances haven't been good. So even though I've had like a lot of expectation to succeed, like I haven't succeeded. there's extra pressure even now to not be like known for choking at events.
So goal for my first BlizzCon, I mean, it's obviously to go as far as possible.
We've learned as a team is that we shouldn't go into events with a lot of expectation. Take each game like one at a time.
I would be very happy with a top 4 spot. The competition is very, very tough at the very top. We built this roster for this specific goal and I felt very, very confident about it. I believed in the team and it's paid off.
Our apologies, but also our excitement, as it looks like we are almost ready to get back into our game number 1 here between Leftovers and Tempest on Tomb of the Spider Queen.
That's right. It's been a pretty uneventful early game, just wave clear and rotations, no heavy commitments to any fights or potential picks, no first blood, and we're still pre-level 4 here, so very much still in the early stages. You and I spent a lot of time talking about the potential for what happens post 10 for these squads, and we're still a ways away from that right now. I think if we see an early lead for Leftovers, then this game can absolutely snowball towards their favor, but there's just nothing to indicate yet that they will be able to pull that off. But I mean, the game hasn't really even started yet, is what I'm really trying to say.
It looks like we are seeing some readies from the teams, though, so we're likely to get back in very shortly. We can have a quick look, though, a quick peek at the gem counts. Currently 26 for Tempest here, 21 for Leftovers, so not a huge difference. I doubt there's any super missed or removed. Obviously, we haven't had any kills yet. This is likely just due to this general lane setup and how the minions have been killed off so far.
Yep. Notice how Lockdown is going to harass Mopsio here around the turn-in point. He's just simply going to be helping this 4-man push bottom. Because you know it's going to be tough to win in terms of pushing against Azul, so you take the Night Camp and you push with it heavily. And yeah, Leftovers gets theirs second, which means they're going to have their own opportunity for pushing, but the harassment there from Lockdown actually made it more difficult for Azul to be in lane to get those skeletons spawning with his passive. So just a small little thing that you can do against this main tank Azul.
Level 4 being hit by both teams. We're seeing standard stuff, the shielding potions for Decade Kane, that extra bit of life leech coming in for the Tassadar. Going to be incredibly useful, and the Grim Scythe, the more usual level 4 coming in for Zul.
Yeah, the cooldown reduction there, but Hyde in trouble, caught, and you know, he's one of the only heroes on this squad that doesn't have a reliable escape from the Bone Prison, so a very nice, nicely chosen target here by Leftovers to bring this, you know, support down. So Hyde gets killed here as first blood. That's going to give Leftovers opportunity to do even further damage than what Tempest has just done in the mid lane. Look at this top push. They're going to catch up with experience very shortly. You're going to see this scroll take out that last cannon tower.
Very nice. Already 11 gems turned in as well for Leftovers and 36 in their bank. They're very much approaching that critical mass. Tempest, though, 1 gem out, and they're easily just going to pick that up right now. So they have enough, and Leftovers, their attention will be turning onto defending those turn-in points. They're actually putting a bit of pressure onto Dami, forcing him to Avenging Wrath out.
Yep. Actually, a very nice trade here for Leftovers, who now have enough for that turn-in. If they can use this wave clear, control of the lanes to make that happen, it's going to be ideal for them. Dami just going to get rooted here. No big deal. Nice trade from Mopsio, though. They just haven't quite yet gotten the pick they need to get that turn in. We're going to see Lockdown commit heavily here on the chase for DAB.
Bit of a misplay by DAB there, not holding his attacks, eats a fair amount of damage from the Genji deflect.
Exactly. That's one of the reasons why people were saying at the beginning when Genji was released, he is like a counter to Tracer. It's not really true, as we know now, but when you make a small mistake like that, can be big. And Lockdown went very deep here. DAB is in super big trouble here. Long-range attacks here from Good against the shield, though.
He has Blink back, though. He doesn't get himself caught out. The Arsenal synergy was winding up as well, so as such, we do see both players retreat as reinforcements arrive on both sides. Level 7 is hit, and currently, Decade Kane is holding his level 7 as Tempest to get the first turn in.
And that's all it takes, actually, in a pressure situation like this that's so wave clear based and so controlled around trades in lane. when you make a small, tiny mistake like that, as DAB did, which is uncharacteristic, he's considered one of the best Tracer players in the world, it's going to cost you the first turn-in, and that might cost you a 10 deficit. And this comp that Leftovers is running wants to snowball the game hard, wants to be the first one to get 10, get that first web weaver push, and start to further advantages from there. So this is actually a fantastic moment for Tempest.
Decade finally picks up the Emerald. Zool, of course, bringing out his Harvest Vitality. This is where he really starts to get a lot of sustain. Of course, combined with Rapid Harvest. Once he hits level 13, that is when he becomes truly terrifying and hard to kill.
You can actually compare Zool to old Varian pre-10, you know,
yeah,
in a way. Like, he comes online as a tank later than earlier. So this is going to allow Lockdown to dive deep here. They're coming in. Nice dimensional shift there, actually, by Potiboss to actually get out of it. Now, the counter-engage.
They're trying to dive onto Lockdown, who is being chased away. Licked even running after him, looking for the bot with the cane. But Mopsio with a great wrap out, looking for the turnaround, but diving in. Great Lunar Flare. Follow up, and Tassadar is taken out. But Lockdown is super low in the backline. Throw Ceiling coming out, and they're going to take down ETC at minimum.
They definitely are. They want more here. A little bit greedy was Tempest, but Moxio stepped over. His shield is down. He's going to get taken. Kidney.
Great swift strike from Genji. Lockdown has been skirting the edge of this fight beautifully. We see a quick blinker from DAB to recover a couple gems. Gets himself up to 30, but they still lose quite a few.
And this is another one of those examples of what we were talking about, Zool, his ability to be a tank, but temporarily. And after that, after that moment of his shield is down, Tassadar's shield is down, and he's unable to auto-attack with Cursed Strikes. He's just unable to really shut down that attack speed and survive. So nice flank there, good setup, but Tempest turns on his head, and it's all about that ETC power slide into Lunar Flare that I was talking about in right after draft. And Tempest now has the 10 advantage. They're going to go for pretty meta heroics here. I imagine the mosh pit is not even a question at this point.
There's obviously an argument for the synergy with Stage Dive and the Purification Salvo, but let's count the interrupts. Decade Kane's heroic, Maiev maybe heroic, and it's a Tether. Those are the interrupts. Oh, and Tracer gets stuffed at level 20. So, yeah, the mosh pit, like you said, it was so unlikely we would have seen Stage Dive here. Urel, on the other hand, she's going to go for the undefender, but there could certainly have been an argument for Sacred Grounds there if you want to take a stand against the against Zool, keep him distracted from your allies. That can be a very good tool.
It's very good against Zool, and it's also very good for boss control on this map in particular. So, yeah, I like it a lot. But some considerations were made, but canceled for just that extra survivability. We are going to see Tempest look to force a second turn in here. They're just a few gems away from that, or in fact, and Leftovers has to make something happen now that they have 10. It's actually going to be Skeletal Mages coming out instead of the Poison Nova, so looking for more lockdown rather than damage.
We do see the Warden's Cage though. We did predict that along with the Archon for the big AoE damage and a Lornado for even more disruption. Brute lands onto Dummy, but Power Slide in. Quick pickup from Lockdown onto Mopsio, and with no tank, DAB is definitely trying to survive with that Tassadar shield. Moshpit more as a zoning tool. The Decade has to walk into it, try to escape. But Kidney tries to Warden Cage his way out, but this is going to be a good salvo to finish off two more members.
DAB is not going to be here alive. I don't think the recall. Just barely enough. All right, you know, it's my first time getting a commentator. I've watched him so long. I've heard the stories, I've heard the legends. My bad for the miscall on that one, man. I should have believed.
You should have believed, but in this case, that was still a 4-for-1 in total in favor of Tempest. Beautifully done, and they're looking strong with another turn in.
It's a terrible time to have this for death moment for Leftovers because it's right as the Web Weaver is spawning. So look at how much damage is done before the Web Weaver even spawns here on this mid fort. So that means it's going to go down. That's going to allow more opportunity for further fort damage in the top lane and perhaps even a keep wall to be damaged here for Leftovers.
Well, it's going to be a talent advantage certainly here for Tempest as they are going to hit level 13 during this push. Bot lane has been left completely unattended. That's going to be pushing up, like you said, to keep walls here. Whereas Tempest are currently looking for pressure onto top fort, maybe looking to take that down.
A lot of Korean teams have faced against in HGC Korea this main tank Zool, and it's really about, I think, the Tyrande here, that extra burst damage. Lekitney way out of position here.
Yeah, he's going to try and play with vision. Finds Hyde. Where's the teleport? He does do it. He waits for the last second, but it's just an easy swift strike for the pickup by Lockdown.
Lekitney certainly has had his moments of being on the other side of the map throughout this early group stage, but was definitely trying to find a backline, picks up something that was unable to do. Either way, it costs them, again, another death timer. We're talking about 8 kills to 3 here with forts down. And a boss play here, I think, is absolutely warranted, given that the rest of the map is complete. There's complete vision control here for Tempest in all 3 lanes, so they can see any rotation leftovers would make. We talked about how this comp for leftovers is terrible at boss control.
Al comes out into the one area they don't have vision. They will spot the rotation of leftovers. They know they're going for the turn-in, and it seems that Tempest are quite happy to sacrifice the turn-in of leftovers in exchange for this boss, where, you already mentioned it, they're going to attempt to begin weakening that keep wall.
And with leftovers dying so much in this game, they've lost so many gems, so this is the only, there's no potential for a double turn-in, at least not right now, especially with the wave clear as it is. So this basically nullifies the only turn-in they reasonably have at the moment, and Tempest is all the while building up for a third during this time. So they're basically limiting the effectiveness of this moment that leftovers wanted to be huge to get back into this game.
People taken out, boss still at over half health. And with the Web Weavers mid already pretty much defeated, bot already being weakened, Tempest shut down the push of leftovers while gaining an entry point to potentially end the game later on.
And this is one of those things where, because the boss requires so much of a pull, like you mentioned, the Web Weavers essentially don't do much. They get cleaned quickly. It also means Tempest is soaking all lanes, and leftovers is essentially soaking one, occasionally going off to the other lanes, which are pushed by the Web Weavers, so unsafe to soak.
Down, gonna get hit by the root here, but can they do anything? They actually get the tether, but Lockdown was able to get too far away, not going to be in a position to get taken out. Lockdown vaulting over the wall. We also have an update apparently from our second series where Tempo Storm were able to beat out Beyond the Game in 8-2-0.
Oh, leftovers may have overstepped here a little bit. They're going to go ahead and toss out the Skeletal Mages here, looking for Lockdown. That would be a nice picky X strikes out.
He's able to dash through, keep himself alive, but Kidney is low with Tracer already taken out as the main damage source. Mosh Pit not even needed. Mopsio is down. Boss on the run. Linked is far enough away that he might actually no, they're closing in. Here comes the Sapphire Emerald, but he is in between a rock and a ninja place.
Yes, he certainly is, and that's going to be the end of him. It's going to be a staggered death as well, so that's going to be the longest death timer. No heals here for leftovers. And we're going to watch this again. Watch this positioning here as they overextend trying to grab Lockdown. He uses X-Strike to get away, and now they're all out of position. This sets up a massive salvo as Blakitny and Mopsio just get bled down here. Sign in perfect position to get those follow-up stuns. And it's just a matter of desperation here for leftovers because they know if they can get a fight, if they can get a single pick, maybe they can take that 14 versus 16 talent tier fight, 13 to 16 rather, at level 14. And this is something they've known to do in their region, is to take these fights for the down talent tiers, down members. But this was not that fight, and that's going to cost them not only a keep, but another Web Weaver push that Tempest is going to try to end this game with.
Yeah, they are even grabbing the Bruiser Camp Fortis as well. This is looking rough for the leftovers. They have level 13, they have the Rapid Harvest for Zul, but it hasn't helped them. Tempest have been getting such good isolations, preventing that healing value. Mopsio is just kind of being ignored even in these fights.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like I said earlier, if this is a comp where you can get that 10 first and win a team fight with it and get a Web return and look for that second one, suddenly we're in a completely different world, right?
Yeah.
Like if you don't, it's so hard to come back from behind with this. You have no real team fight initiation. Oh man, DAB, he is back in that Hall of Storms again.
Beautiful play from Dami with the knockback, setting up for Sign. And that is a quick pickup on one of the biggest damage dealers that leftovers have. So much reliance is now on this Maiev. You can see getting reset after reset, but Tempest are having none of it. They even have groupies that prog rock fully stacked on Sign as they begin moving in for the core.
And here's the commitment now from Lockdown in. Blakitny is shoved away. Core under attack.
Reset after reset. Blakitny's trying to drop any damage he can. He's tanking through this magnificently. Mosh Pit is great. And a quick double kill picked up by Tempest.
Lockdown is just going to get the reset after reset here to finish this one off. The salvo gets massive value, and that is going to be the completion here of this game. Everyone's low.
The AB. Can he do it? Can he pull off the 1v4? There's catapults on the core as well. He's trying to chase them. They're so mobile. The catapult's been cleaned up. They blow him up, and that's going to be it. The dream is not alive for DAB here, as Tempest will take game number 1.
No matter which way you put it, people are saying this team, Leftovers, they're looking for a sponsor. They're excited to be at such a prestigious event. They're a team that likes to experiment, tries to push forward a new meta, their meta, and also has these picks that no other team would try. And this narrative of they're trying to have fun, this is what motivates them, this is what makes them excited and gets them pumped and what leads to their wins, has kind of fallen flat in this group. This is the team that's here. Fnatic is not here for this BlizzCon the first time in 3 years. They do not attend BlizzCon. This is the 3rd seed from Europe. But we're now looking at a world where they might not get out of this group.
It could happen. There's still one more game in this matchup. But to break down that game we just saw, it's once again our analysis desk.
Things are not looking good for the Leftovers, but Tempest coming out swinging and shutting down the Zul Tassadar composition. Tempest showing the research going in and looking great while doing it, Skimmy.
Absolutely. I mean, we had concerns about the Zul in terms of its survivability if it wasn't able to actually fully execute. They needed a strong early game. They had the dream composition. I remember you and me sitting down there saying, this is a composition which screams Leftovers. If they don't win with this, I don't think they can win at all in this series.
And that's the whole thing with Leftovers, is that it seems like they got something that they had kind of practiced, but is it as polished? They didn't have the same type of boot camps that other teams did.
Yeah.
And I think that was a little bit tricky because it felt like they knew what they wanted to do, but it wasn't as refined. They forced the issue in some areas, but Tempest, the pressure, what we know Korean teams do in these situations is quite simply like, that's a nice draft. We're still going to run you over and play our style, and you better be flawless with your execution, else it's not going to work.
I got to be honest, I was looking at the faces of Leftovers in that entire match, and they looked demoralized. I haven't seen them like that in any event. When you think about it, when it comes to online events, typically they're able to be in a really good spot. They're going through a deep dive in the bracket. They're getting pretty far, but right now they are seeing the worst of the worst right now of themselves, and I need them to find that spark. They have to get a win against Tempest, and they have to be prepared against Mindfreak.
And I mean, if you parallel that to what we saw coming out of Tempest, it's a team that I fell in love with when I first saw them at the mid-season brawl. These guys, they talk so much. They got energy, they got enthusiasm. It was bouncing out. Yes, it's easy to always be that enthusiastic when you're winning, but you know, these guys are always talking, and as you said, like, we were watching this Leftovers side, and this is my main question leading into the series, you know, how much stress do they actually now have on their shoulders? Because they say, look, yeah, we're taking it chill, we're having fun, that's the key to our success, but now you're at BlizzCon, you still don't have a sponsor, you've got all these expectations that are starting to mount on up. It's going to get to you eventually.
Well, we're going to need Leftovers to find some words and make sure they get it all brought together, but some words from our sponsors are ready to be shown to you guys at home.